Joining us now on the Megacast is Rachel Stevens. She is a visiting professor of theater at Oakland University and the director of the upcoming production of the new musical, A New Brain. Rachel, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me. Happy to be here.
Yeah, glad to have you on with us as well. So you're a visiting professor at Oakland University. Tell us a little bit about your background and what brought you to Oakland?
Sure. I'm an artist originally coming from New York City. I came as a visitor last semester, which was originally a contract for the semester, fell in love with the school and the faculty, was fortunate enough to be asked back, and now I'm here for the year. So I'm really lucky that I get the opportunity to direct a main stage production this year as well.
Yeah, and it's a new production too. It's called A New Brain. It begins in late October, October 27th through the 30th, and November 3rd through the 6th. When these performances are, November 3rd through the 6th is A New Brain. October 27th through 30th is She Kills Monsters.
That's correct. Yes, they're opening very soon. We're right next to each other, so a lot of theater to go to.
Right. Plenty of theater happening at Oakland University. Oakland.edu for more information and for ticketing as well. A New Brain premieres on November 3rd at 8 p.m. That's a Thursday night. So, Rachel, tell us about A New Brain. It's an interesting new musical that will be beginning in November at Oakland University under your direction. Tell us about the story and what makes it so interesting for you as a director.
Sure. Yeah. Well, it's actually not particularly a news story, but the really exciting thing is that we have the opportunity to do the revival version that premiered at Encore in New York City in 2015. But written by William Finn and James Lapine. It's autobiographical to the playwright. William Finn, the main character's name is Gordon Schwinn, so you can see. But this was immediately after what seemed to be inoperable brain surgery for the playwright. He had what is called an arteriovenous malformation of the brain. And this happened right after winning the Tony Award in 1998 for falsettos. And while in process in the hospital, James Lapine, his collaborator, said, "You should be taking notes." And ultimately, after his recovery, sat down at the piano and songs poured out to what eventually would become A New Brain. So an interesting topic for a musical. But what's so exciting is that it's a comedic, sometimes sardonic, sometimes, really sarcastic, but heartfelt exploration of recovery and new beginnings.
And it's interesting too, because when you have a play that's like that, I would imagine it's tough to navigate all those different emotions and all those different genres too that are taking place within what's generally a comical musical and a look into this time of the playwright's life. So for you as a director, how do you balance that with your actors and bring that out on the stage without really embellishing all these different kinds of performance that go into A New Brain?
Right. No, that's a really wonderful question. So one of the things that we have as a part of our production is a dramaturg, Madeline Daunt, who is a student, who's also my assistant director. And along with her advisor, David Graham, we've been doing a lot of research, dramaturgy, basically on the context of what it really means to go through this kind of traumatic event. We've done interviews with folks who've experienced similar surgeries and gone into talking to the medical team and medical department at the school. So we're balancing what we know in terms of the real experience with the writer's lens. And one of the conversations we have often with the actors is, so the writer went through this really traumatic event, but what he chose to write about was the spirit of recovery, new beginnings, reconstructing what legacy really means and the healing power of art. And so it's our responsibility as artists to hold both of those things at the same time and honor the playwright's mission. So we talk about both often in rehearsal and how we honor the characters through that experience.
We're joined by Rachel Stevens, the director of A New Brain at Oakland University and visiting professor in the Department of Theater. On today's edition of the Megacast, A New Brain premieres at Oakland University Thursday, November 3rd at 8 p.m. with shows on Friday the 4th, Saturday the 5th, and Sunday the 6th. More information can be found at oakland.edu for tickets as well. Oakland.edu. And they're also available tickets on etix.com, etix.com. for more information. And now that we're in a different part of the pandemic too, where there's not so much necessarily distancing that goes into rehearsals and goes into different discussions for preparation for these plays and certainly for the performances as well. How have you seen over the past year, really, as we've more and more emerged out of the thick of the pandemic and really been back in the more traditional of a landscape for theater and for other forms of entertainment, that's affected the actors, or that the pandemic and the lessons they learned from acting during the pandemic have affected their performance here with a new brain?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's certainly affected them, right? I mean, last year at school, they were able to do a production, a couple of productions, but not going unscathed, right? We're still taking a lot of precautions because we're singing in a small space. So we have to be super careful about the actors' health and the health of the audience. In terms of how they feel and the work they're bringing to the table, I think it only makes them more excited and hungry to tell stories because they're just so delighted to be together. And this piece in particular, I think, is just such an important piece for this moment because it's about community, it's about heart, it's about building something new coming out of a place of adversity and re-examining what's really important to us. And I think that's really resonating with our students, and I think it will really resonate with our audiences. Theater is a communal art form. It's about being together and sharing space. And I think being able to do a piece like this right now is the perfect time for our audiences to come back together.
More information, again, can be found oakland.edu. They also have a great article about these upcoming performances, both A New Brain and the show that precedes it, She Kills Monsters, at oakland.edu/OU magazine to learn more in the Oakland University news about both of these performances. We're joined by Rachel Stevens, visiting professor of theater at Oakland University and the director of A New Brain, premiering November 3rd at Oakland University. More information, again, oakland.edu as well to purchase tickets. Rachel, a few more minutes with you today. Anything else we should know about this performance of A New Brain, or the approach that you and your actors are taking, your students are taking, to making this performance a rousing success and telling this really interesting story in the really interesting way that it's written?
Sure. I think one of the most exciting things is we're doing it in the lab theater space in Varner, which is a small black box, which means that we're really going bare bones with it and really focusing on the actor's craft. So, of course, the space will be transformed scenically, but we're really focusing in on the intimacy of the piece. There's a lot of direct address where you're speaking directly to the audience, so they're involved. And we really love the fact that the space is small, it's intimate, you're right there with the actors, and you're a part of the story as we go along. So I think that will be a really fascinating piece at play. And I would also say too, these actors are putting their heart and soul into these characters and bringing a lot of their identity and experience at play. So I think you'll get to know them as individuals as you will get to experience and honor the characters.
More information can be found on oakland.edu to find tickets and to learn more about the theater program. Oakland.edu. Rachel, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.